What's going on, everybody? Nick Petrolo here with NPM Productions. One of our clients here at NPM is a wonderful vocalist, and for the past year she's been giving me projects which she will record vocals on top of piano tracks that I will send her and produce. The latest project coming up is one in which she'll record all of the choir parts in an a cappella section before her lead vocal comes in. And this could come with some problems if you're not in the same room using an actual choir. So I wanted to go through some of the things that I will be sending her that will help with this process. So first, as in any project that I'll do remotely, I'll record what are known as basics. And in a studio setting, this would generally be your bass and drums so that your rhythm is established and you can overdub things on top of that. For a project like this, I will mainly just be doing piano and maybe adding some string elements to add some production value. So with basics, what's most important is that I play the piano part in exactly as it will be on the recording so that she has something stable to record her vocals to. Now, another difficulty that comes with this setup is a lot of her material is classical in nature and has a lot of tempo shifts. So what I would need to do is play the piano in without a click and then do something called beat mapping in Logic, where the tempo would ebb and flow based on how I was playing. This allows for the emotion to come through in my performance, but also so that I can provide her with a click track during recording. More on that later. Once basics are done, I can now focus on this a cappella section, which wouldn't have any instruments playing during this section. What I would do here is create what's known as a piano reduction, which is all of the a cappella parts or voices played on a piano. And this would allow for the vocalist to sing with all of the parts included in her ear. This would help with intonation and just to know where her voice and part is in the whole mix. Personally, I've played for a lot of choir rehearsals and I've worked with a lot of vocalists, so I can do a reduction like this in real time. If it's tricky for you to play all of these parts together, you can do each voice at a time, overdubbing each part, creating a piano part essentially. Now the next step is probably the most crucial for the vocalist. What I need to create are plunk tracks. And these are each individual vocal line played on an instrument. Now, I generally like to choose instruments that have a high sustain, like a string sound or a woodwind or even a brass. And this is so that I can accurately show the dynamics and I can sustain the note as long as the vocal would hold them. If I create these plunk tracks on a piano, the sustain is going to taper off and the vocalist isn't going to know exactly how long to hold the note for. Another important thing with these plunk tracks is that the onset of the note and the cutoff are very precise. This is crucial when you're dealing with vocalists because the consonants that start words or end words need to end together, or you're going to have a series of consonants on the onset of a note and on the cutoff, which is something we don't want. So generally, once I'm finished plunking the plunk tracks, I will go into the MIDI and make sure that everything is as accurate to the sheet music as possible for the vocalist. The next step is to give starting notes in the plunk tracks 2 bars before where the vocalist enters. And this is going to be helpful, especially in a cappella music where they don't really have a pitch center starting out. So you need to give them a note as to what pitch they're starting to sing on. The next step is another very crucial step. You need to provide a click track, especially for the a cappella sections. And this is for all intents and purposes like providing a conductor at the remote session where the vocalist will be singing these parts. So for your piano reduction, you may also need to create a tempo map based on how you played those parts in, if there is an ebb and flow. Especially for a cappella music, sometimes the end of phrase is retardando, and then you come back into tempo as the next section or phrase comes in. So once you're done with your tempo map, you'll want to print your click onto its own audio file, and then bounce that out separately. I generally like to give 2 bars of click before the beginning of the piece. So for this piece that I've created for this client, the a cappella starts right at the top. So I'll give 8 clicks or 2 bars, and then the a cappella section will proceed. The last step I like to include, especially for remote sessions, is to include a guide track that goes along with the click track. And a guide track would include things like count-ins, dictating things like tempos and cutoffs, and any type of notes like diction or vowels, or anything that I need to be cohesive in all of the parts. Think of a guide vocal as being in the room with the vocalists and giving them notes during the rehearsal process. I need to make sure that the vowels are consistent. For instance, is an A an ah or an a or an I would need to tell them in the guide track, or I would need to provide a document as to how those vowels would sound. I would also vocally say things like off, crescendo, or quieter. I would also give count-ins like 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these guides would be on a separate track, and I would bounce them in tandem with the click so that they exist together. And this would allow the vocalist to hear all of the guides, but also to mute them once they're in the session. Make sure that all of these tracks are bounced at the exact same start point, so it's easier for your vocalists to add these to their sessions and record on top of them. I hope all of this was helpful in the video. Please hit the subscribe button and see you next time.